This class will be concerned with the nature of public goods and services. And as we'll see, these are quite distinct from what we call private goods and services. Private goods, services are the goods that we trade in the market, goods that we buy and sell. Public goods and services have different characteristics, and that's what we want to explore in this class. They're usually considered under the heading of market failure. Now, that's a contentious point. Many economists would say the markets do not fail. It's just that these goods are not amenable to market transactions. That the nature of the goods put them outside of a market review. But it's not an example of a market failure. Many economists are adamant about this, particularly economists from what's known as the Austrian tradition. And we'll talk about that much later in economics on our channel. But for the moment, we classified under market failure, and there are other examples of areas or ways in which markets may be seen to fail, and this is one of them. But let's look at what the nature of the goods are, the goods and services first, and we can try and to look back then and see if it is a case of market failure, and perhaps pick that up in seminar situations. In the economy, goods and services are produced for profit and purchased by final consumers. That's what the market is about. The market brings buyers and sellers together, and producers make the goods and services available because they're going to make a profit out of so doing. It's in their interest to do so. And we, the consumers, go to the market because we want the goods and services, because we get pleasure from those goods and services. And that's the nature of the market in a nutshell. The market brings the individual producers and the individual consumers together, and they form an exchange. The ownership of the goods move from one to the other, and payment moves from one to the other as well. Some goods and services display the characteristics that enable many customers to enjoy their output and not to diminish the quantity available to the other consumers in the process. Okay, what does that mean? Well, what it's saying is that there are some goods, even though I consume the services of the goods, let's say I consume it, when I finish consuming the goods, the services of the goods, the same amount of the good is available for someone else to enjoy. That sounds a little strange. But take, for example, streetlights. If I'm going somewhere at night, then I enjoy the streetlights. I have streetlights showing me the way. So I get a benefit from the streetlights. But my consumption of the streetlights does not diminish the amount of the streetlights available for someone else. So it's a public good. The good is still there, even though I'm consuming it. I'm using the streetlights. I'm walking somewhere and I have streetlights, and I like the streetlights. But my consumption of that good does not diminish the amount available for someone else. They have special characteristics, in other words, and they're known as public goods. And these public goods are different from private goods. Private goods is what we purchase in a shop, or we purchase in a store, or we purchase when we go traveling, we buy a ticket. That's a private good. It's ours. We have a property right over that good. But a public good, we don't have a property right. We don't own it. I don't own the streetlights. I can't stop people from enjoying the streetlights, from walking around at night, getting a benefit from the streetlights. I contribute to it. In fact, I'm forced to contribute to it by the government. But I benefit from it. You can see where this is going and how complex it's going to become. There are two conditions that are necessary for a good to be classified as a public good. We call them non-rivalry and non-excludability. Let's look at non-rivalry. Now, this characteristic of a good enables the consumption by one individual, let's say me, of a unit of the good or service and not stop another person from consuming the same unit. Now, this can't happen with private goods. If I buy a bottle of water, it's my bottle of water. If you take it, you've stolen it, or you're intimidating me and you're mugging me and taking my water. You're doing something illegal. Unless you offer to buy it from me, in which case I can sell my property right, my right over the bottle of water, I can sell it to you in return for some money. But streetlights, back to streetlights again. If I do go out tonight and walk around and there are streetlights, I'm not diminishing the amount of streetlights that someone else may enjoy. Someone else may go out and walk around as well and enjoy the streetlights. So I'm not diminishing it by doing what I'm doing. Whereas with a private good, that is mine. I can stop you. We are rivals for it. It's mine. And you've got your goods. So non-rivalry may seem impossible and is certainly not a characteristic that is present for most products. It only applies to public goods. And I'm distinguishing public goods now from private goods. Private goods are goods in which you have a property right. You own the private goods. They're yours. And if I go and consume some of your private good, I'm either stealing it or I'm taking it with your permission, but I'm consuming something, and the more I consume of it, the less there is for you available. Whereas with streetlights, I consume it, I'm not diminishing the amount available for you. If an individual consumes, let's say, a cheese sandwich, then no other individual can have the cheese sandwich. If I consume a cheese sandwich, you can't have it. I've just eaten it. It's my cheese sandwich and I've eaten it. Let's say. So you can't have it. But again, streetlights, if I go out tonight and enjoy the streetlights, they're still there for you if you want them. So non-rivalry. With public goods, for example, the consumption of streetlights or defence, as I'm just talking here, the consumption of one unit of that product by an individual does not diminish the amount available to other consumers. That's important. That's the summary of what I've been saying. The concept of non-rivalry only exists up to capacity limits. For example, we're not rivals when driving the roads late at night because there's little traffic at that time. But during the day, when a lot of people are driving, we are rivals for the services of the roads. There may be traffic jams and long queues, long waiting around on motorways or highways or whatever it is on popular roads. But something which is at some stages not rivalry, non-rivalry, at other times may be rivalry. So at rush hour, when the roads are used to capacity, we are rivals, but not, say, throughout the night. Perhaps there are very few people travelling. Now, a second condition for public goods, I've just had non-rivalry. Make a note, non-rivalry. Now we have the second condition called non-excludability. This refers to our inability to exclude others from consuming the good. Back to me and streetlights again. If I go out tonight to consume the services of a streetlight, I'm not breaking a law, so I can't be stopped. I'm walking around the streets, I'm harmless, I'm not doing anything bad, I'm out having a walk, enjoying the streetlights. And I can't be excluded. You could go out tonight and enjoy the streetlights as well. So we're not rivals, and we can't be excluded. The government could pass a law and stop me from going out tonight to enjoy the streetlights. I doubt if they're going to do that. I'm not that important. So I don't think they will. It's difficult, if not impossible, to exclude people from benefiting from the defence forces, for example. Once the defence forces are in position, once we have a defence force, I'm being protected by them. It doesn't matter how big they are or how small they are. There might be just a couple of people with bow and arrows or something, or clubs or whatever they've got. Or there might be a big army with missiles and tanks and warships and everything. It doesn't matter. Whoever it is, we're all being protected by them. There is another side to this characteristic of non-excludability, and this implies non-rejection of the good. For example, let's say I'm a pacifist. Let's say, just pretend I'm a pacifist, and I'm being protected by the defence forces, like it or not. So a pacifist is being protected whether they like it or not. Likewise, there's very little I can do about streetlights. I can't reject streetlights. I could have a campaign against them, try and get people to support me and try and get all the streetlights turned off. It seems like a lot of problems for some reason, but could do. But essentially, if we have a public good, say a streetlight or streetlights, I can't really reject it. I could campaign against the streetlights, but it's difficult. I can't reject it. Once the defence forces are in position and being developed and trained and have been equipped and so on, they're there for everybody. We can't reject them. We could campaign against them, but the very fact that they're there, they are protecting me right now. And they're protecting me whether I want to be protected or not. I can't exclude them. So we can't be excluded from the services of the defence forces. Now, public goods and private goods. Well, where both non-rivalry and non-excludability are present, we say it's a pure public good. Pure public good. We have to have both of those, non-rivalry and non-excludability. If we have both, we have a public good. And public goods we don't buy in shops. We can't buy one. It's a public good. So we pay for public goods generally out of taxation. Pure private goods and services do not have either of these characteristics. A private good, we are rivals for a private good. If I go to a supermarket and buy all the bread that night, I go to the supermarket tonight and I buy all the bread in the supermarket, there's no bread left for you tomorrow. I've bought it all. So we are rivals. The more bread I buy, the less there is available for you. That's a private good. And if I could be excluded. When I go to the supermarket to buy all the bread tonight, the security guard on the door might stop me and say, "You can't come in. We've decided you're not a welcome person anymore. You're not allowed in." I could be excluded. It's a private good. So, private goods and public goods are radically different. Now, there are a range of possibilities between these two extremes. I've given you two extremes, pure private goods and pure public goods. We do get compromises and we do get situations where communities and individuals come up with arrangements which are a mix of the two. But we're not going to concern ourselves here. We're going to look at the extremes like I've been doing. Pure public, pure private. Now there's a problem here called the free rider problem. Non-excludability may mean that customers attempt to free ride. If we can't exclude somebody, let's say streetlights, you'd find it very difficult to exclude me from enjoying the streetlights. Non-excludable. The police could try and stop me or charge me with using streetlights, or if there's no such law, I don't think. But if I'm walking around, having a walk every night, I'm enjoying the streetlights. It's my entitlement. But that may mean some people may enjoy the streetlights and may pretend not to try and avoid tax. So if taxes was voluntary and we said, who wants to pay for streetlights? And let's assume we have no streetlights. Who wants to pay for streetlights? Well, people who want streetlights would put their hands up, say, we want to pay for them. Some people would say, I really want a streetlight, but I'll let the others pay. Why should I pay? I become a free rider. I'm free riding off the other people's generosity. The other people want the streetlights. They think it's a very good idea. I think it's a great idea, but I don't want to pay for it. So I pretend not to want streetlights. This will have an implication for the way in which production of public goods and services is organised, financed and controlled. And you can see where this is going. If public goods are financed by voluntary contributions, let's say we said, let's have streetlights and let's all voluntarily contribute towards the streetlights. So we have some. Assume we live in some town where there are no streetlights, and all of us get together one night and say, look, it would be really nice to have some streetlights. Let's all chip in some money and have some streetlights. It sounds like great. Everybody wants them. Everybody thinks streetlights are wonderful. Let's have some streetlights. But I could lie. I could say, you know, I really don't like streetlights. I'm lying, but I don't like streetlights. I don't want streetlights. I'm not going to pay. Now, if it's a voluntary proposal, we're going to voluntarily take money to have the streetlights, I'm lying. I want the streetlights, but I'm lying. I'm lying so I'll get the streetlights because you and all your friends will pay for them, and I've lied to you. I want the streetlights, but I don't want to pay. So I become what's known as a free rider. I'm free riding off your generosity. By lying, I hope to avoid paying, and I become a free rider. I get the lights because all of you and your friends all contribute and pay for the lights, and I enjoy the lights, but I'm not telling you that. I'm keeping it as a secret. I privately enjoy the lights, but I'm not paying for it. So I'm a free rider. So for this reason, if public goods are to be provided, they cannot be financed out of voluntary contribution. Otherwise, many of us may become free riders. We lie about our enjoyment of it. So the obvious solution is to have coercive taxation. We force people to pay taxes. I'm forced to pay taxes, and some of that money goes to pay for the street lights. So now I can say I don't like street lights, but I still have them. I still have to pay for them. Let's look at externalities. Externalities are external effects. These were identified by Alfred Marshall way back in his famous book in 1922. Alfred Marshall is the one who gave us all of economics, just about. Very important person in the history of economics. An externality exists whenever Due to the nature of the present economic and social institutions, costs are imposed on others for which no compensating payment is made. That's an externality. I'll give you an example. Let's say there's a factory near where I live, and they've decided to build some furnace, and they're going to put smoke into the air. They're going to make some new manufacturing process, and it's going to start putting a lot of smoke into the air. Just have a chimney, and whatever they're doing, they're making some products, and they have to heat them up, and so there's a lot of black smoke coming out of the chimney and polluting the whole area. And it's destroying the air that I breathe. But it's an externality. It's a negative externality. A negative externality is a bad one, but they're imposing it upon me, but there's no compensation. So what we need here is, I need to campaign for the law. I need to campaign for the government to stop them doing this. But the market has failed. They're imposing this on me. And there are positive externalities, and I'll come on to these as well later. But just to preempt it, let's say you decide to go to university or college or study something later, having completed this course. Now you become a better person. You're more skillful. You're more artistic. You're more scientific. You're more capable. The country's a better place because of what you've done. You're more productive. Now, that means you pay taxes. That means people who can't work perhaps receive a benefit from you. It's an externality. It's outside of the market. It's not your intention to give them money. You pay it in tax, and the government gives it away on your behalf. Benefits are bestowed on others for which no payment is received. That's the point. There could be a cost or there could be a benefit. But there's no direct payment. This is a transfer, one to the other. If you become more educated, you become a better person, a better citizen, a more compassionate person, a more helpful person, all because you've been educated. Everybody benefits. The country benefits, more production, more efficiency. People benefit as well. You're nice to know. You're more interesting. You're educated. You're an educated person. In other words, externalities are what we call untraded or non-traded, some people say N-O-N, non-traded or untraded interdependencies between individuals and firms. There are interdependencies between us, but they're not traded. There's no money taking place. A company opens next door to you and starts polluting the air. It's not traded. They don't come round and give you some money, presumably, because you have to breathe bad air. So it's an externality, external to the market. It's outside of the market. There are two types of externality. Positive externality, no payment is associated. We receive a benefit, no payment is associated. And negative externality, when costs are inflicted on others without compensation being made. And these are the two I mentioned earlier. We also have technological and pecuniary externalities. Technological externalities, the consumption or production of activities of one person or company may affect the levels of consumption or production by other people or companies. Technological externalities, let's say there's a company that uses a lot of water and there's a river near that company, and the company takes the water out of the river and uses it for production, and then when it's finished it puts the water back in. However, the water it puts back in is polluted. Now the people downstream receive polluted water not clear water as they did before. That's a technological externality. Somebody opens a business and starts putting smoke into the atmosphere. We have to breathe that. So a company may pollute the air that the residents breathe and no compensation is paid. There's also a pecuniary externality. Pecuniary means money. Pecuniary is related to money. For example, the activities of one company may inflict costs on another company without compensation. One company buys up all of the raw materials for something, it affects the other company. There's a pecuniary externality. There's a dependency. And there's no money passing hands here. It's just a relationship between the two of them. Now, social costs. Well, these spillover effects or externalities give rise to the notion of social costs and social benefits. Since externalities are external to the market, therefore they are examples of what we call market failure. They're external to the market, and because they're outside of the market, we call them market failure. The market fails in the context of externalities. When markets fail, there's a role for the government to intervene to regulate the market and the provision of goods and services. So the market fails, we expect the government to step in and fix it. If a company is polluting the air badly all around the town and everybody's ill, the government has to step in and tell the company not to do it, or change the technology, or stop doing what they're doing. And that's it. This is a very important topic. It's quite a long one. Sorry for going on too much. I'm going to put in a very abbreviated class, video class as well, very abbreviated, to introduce a lot of these topics, and it'll only be a couple of minutes long. But I'll make that available as well as this one. In the meantime, that's all we're going to deal with, so thank you for watching.